Pat Boys, I'm sure now that this is year 3 of me making these videos, you could go back to any week 9, 10, 11 video and I'm always like, matchups are amazing and oh wow, this week. But the thing is, it's fantasy football and that's exactly what happened again. We had some down to the wires. We had two awesome teams go off against each other while two just like hit the basement. What can you do? Wins are wins and points are going to count. You've heard it all before now, but you're about to hear it again because I just can't think of another way to say it. NFL stuff, then we get to week 10. Wrapping up after week 10, we can see not only am I focusing so much on the fantasy season ending, but obviously the NFL season's coming into full form, and we're really getting a good sense of where things are at. The funny thing was, I'm pretty sure someone that looked like me at the start of the season was talking about the AFC and how there should be a lot more offenses and defenses and teams to watch out for and a lot of matches. And we've kind of seen a lot more parity, I think, than we thought. The AFC is just kind of chaos if you think about it, and Vegas isn't always right. Obviously we know the pros and cons of sports books, but Chiefs Ravens AFC final I think is still the highest odd or the best odds at this point when one of those teams isn't in the playoffs and the other one just kind of started to look okay, but the schedules are kind of ironing out and the Chiefs still have a pretty rough schedule heading forward. Getting into the playoffs is, like I said, I think last week, not a given. The Ravens, however, you're starting to look, and you can kind of see how the next weeks are going to play out. And if Jax is in, I don't think there's too many people would fight you in saying that they're probably going to just win the North, because I don't think there's that many people that think the Steelers are legit. Could be totally wrong, though. I guess we have to wait and see. But I think we're forgetting about some of the other leagues. I mean, the Colts are obviously surprising, and the South might have two teams come out, but I mean, looking at Jacksonville and Houston, crazy stat. I didn't realize this, that like Lawrence is 1-3 against Mills, and Mills only has 6 career wins at quarterback, half of them against Jacksonville and Lawrence. So I guess we'll see how they bounce back. But realistically, the one that's kind of spiting us, I think most people assume the Bills would walk with the East, and they're kind of being super inconsistent. And the Miami game, I think, was a big surprise. Sometimes you go into Miami and it's kind of a meh game anyway, but I wouldn't go ahead and say everyone saw that one coming last week. But the thing that sucks that no one really wants to talk about, or some people really, really want to talk about, and we're just annoyed with them talking about it. Sorry, Patriots fans. I know there's a few of you in the leagues here, but we had this for about 20 years where we just knew every year you were kind of in the conversation because the guy had taken the snaps. And low key, I think most of us kind of enjoyed the last couple of years where you were scrambling at quarterback. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I think I made the shot earlier. Is Drake maybe good, maybe bad? I think we've got our answer. He definitely is good and he may be elite. And that sucks, man. We had to deal with the Patriots having a good quarterback for so long. Couldn't the honeymoon period have gone a little bit longer in between another potential franchise quarterback? I know they're saying he's a young Josh Allen, but Josh Allen made way more mistakes in his first couple years so far than Drake is, but I don't know, kind of a bummer, and I certainly don't want to talk more about the AFC because the NFC seems where the show is. Even leading into this week, I think the game of the week and possibly the game of this half of the season, we're up for two teams that have clear flaws but aren't showing them. I mean, the Rams have a quarterback who we all thought at the beginning of the year, or a lot of us thought, can't really move, and so if you get him out of the pocket and get him running, you should have an advantage. September 21st was the last time Stafford threw a pick, knock on something. I'm not trying to jinx him. Since then, he's thrown 20 touchdowns, no interceptions in the last 6 games, and is probably right now the sneaky bet for MVP or someone who might come out of the weeds to do it. Now, their running game has been a little inconsistent and certainly, like I said, the flaw in quarterback, but it does not matter. And they're going up against a team that can barely run the ball and yet have two guys who's often on fantasy starting teams and a quarterback that, I mean, Minnesota didn't want. Other teams have had chances to pass on and is just looking electric with a young wide receiver. So their offense isn't supposed to be dynamic. Their defense is supposed to be good. And yet they're putting up like Texas high school football numbers. They're scoring full games worth of points by midway through the second quarter. So those teams going head to head, I am certainly pumped about going into week 11. I don't like talking a lot about the week in advance because I like to keep at least something to myself. So I'll finish with 2 points I noticed from last week. Number one, in that Colts game overseas, I think we forget sometimes that the refs are probably jet lagged too. I mean, they kind of botched a couple calls, and then at the end forgot who was supposed to call the coin toss in overtime. So are we supposed to just assume that everybody's off their game there? And the second is, I don't even want to talk too much about Brian Daboll, and he got fired, but like, yeah, he should have been fired halfway through the game. I mean, if you watch that, it's one of those like, the first few times you watch shows like The Office and it got super cringy, and some people can handle that and some can't. I think we can deal with that in our comedies, but not in our head traumas, please. I mean, Dart has already had more design runs called for him than anyone else in the league. And if you include all kind of quarterbacks that Daboll's had, it is something he just doesn't seem to care so much about. It's not like they're really teaching him how to slide well. He's kind of going full out. I'm not going to blame him for Scadaboo's injury, but you have a lot of guys that are contact first, and young contact first guys do need to be taught how to not be contact first guys. It takes more than a season, but that doesn't mean you have to call the shots. And it certainly doesn't mean you should be going in the blue tent to try and convince them to come back in and quickly. And then putting him in the game, getting hurt. I know it was a bad scene, but it does raise the question, had that been a worse injury at the end, like, could he be charged with that? If you're putting people who can't defend themselves on the field, I mean, it's not that bad. I'm not trying to make a huge issue out of it. We don't have evidence about how bad Dart was before, but he certainly didn't look like he should be on the field, and then he was, and now he's definitely not. So fired one thing, but I don't know. The states like to kind of sue everybody. Can a coach get sued? I actually don't know the answer to that. Let me know if you do. Anywho, I could obviously keep going, but Week 11's around the corner, so let's close the book on Week 10, fantasy-wise first. Then we'll get looking ahead. Mark had his run a few weeks ago, and now he's kind of stuttering. Hey, 126 is going to win, and as we get to our last matchup, you almost doubled the worst scores in our league, but unfortunately, you went up against Ben, who had a week. Now, Mark, just to talk about you first, I don't want you to leave you out. You had the tight end 4 and wide receiver 5 performances. Not so bad. If you look on your bench, not so great. You did put May there, but yeah, that might have helped you out, but not 20 points helped you out. On the flip side of the coin, you had the double running back combo, 3 and 5, and 3 scored a lot of points. 3 is going to be, like 38 points is going to be a number 1 running back in most weeks. And Breece Hall, I'm not even talking about, and he had 20. So you know where this all came from, but also throw in the best defense and the third best kicker. Didn't matter that Jordan Love couldn't do much more than falling forward, and Pittman just forgot that, with Taylor's on the team, they kind of sometimes forget that they have anything else. Didn't matter. Ben was our top scorer this week. Couldn't have come at a better week. We know he's trying to fight for top 2. When we finally get to the standings, we'll see how close he is. Mark, you're on the outside looking in, but as we're going to see, you still got a shot. One of the crappy things about making these videos is when you're involved in something actually epic and then you call it epic, you kind of feel like you're in a weird situation. But this was, come on, this is one of the matchups of the year. I needed a big win. John's looking to put this down so he can get the guaranteed cash from finishing first. And John, I don't know what to say, buddy. I mean, you know the drill. You were the 3rd highest scoring team this week, knowing that there's only 2 other teams that you couldn't play, and you bumped into one, and you happened to bump into one that was less than a point away. I'm going to talk about you first because honestly, when I make the list of who you had on, it shocks me that I was even in it. You had the tight end 1 in McBride, and not a lot of tight ends did work. To put in context, I was the tight end 5, and you almost doubled me. Taylor was just freaking Taylor, running back 1, obviously, and Stafford 4 touchdowns and the QB2 performance. Now, we both kind of agreed to leave kickers and defenses out of it, so that was a very noble pursuit by both of us, but obviously they even tuned in. I have to say, if I'm going to pick one person that probably cost you, Chuba Hubbard's performance, Neek's so good. Now, you didn't have a whole lot of other options, and you made all the right choices. Well, okay, LA would have won it there. But I mean, against San Fran, I don't know if we all expected that. I think all of us are starting Detroit when they play Washington, and Baker went off in a way, but you made the right call there. On my part, I could have made some changes too, my running backs. I mean, I had one in particular go off, but I made the wrong call on the other 2. CMC was massively disappointed. To do it with Trayvon Henderson against you is a little bit of a kind of tap in the nards because he was the running back 4. And I mean, every single week I've owned him, I thought about dropping him. And I just know had I done that, you would have picked him up probably and beaten me with him. So I'm glad I didn't. I did have the quarterback who got knocked silly, but even before he got knocked silly, he could have maybe been quarterback higher, but he still got me quarterback 3, just under yours. And it really was my wide receivers that did it. That's wide receiver 1 and 4 respectively. So we see how many people were quite tight in there. So Not much more I can say about it, buddy. I mean, I'd love to say sorry. I'm sorry that it happened to you in terms you should have played someone else this week. But man, I needed that win, and you're still in first, so let's not get too cranky. Two more teams that needed it. I'm repeating myself already, and we're on to third down. Jake, this would have been a big one for you, and obviously, Chaz, this was a big one for you. Now, unfortunately, Jake, you just had some people underperform, and as we're going down here, it just seems to be getting worse and worse. You did have Houston, which was fishing around one of our better defenses. Josh Allen pretty much hit predicted, but to hit predicted against Miami kind of feels like he didn't hit predicted. On the flip side, Jazz, you actually left a lot of points on the table here. You had the quarterback 5, but then if we look up, yeah, you made the right call because you started quarterback 4, so no beef there. You also, I mean, we're going to look at some guys who underachieved, but then bam, Achane, that is a running back 2 performance. And let's be honest, most weeks, that's a running back 1 performance. You also had the 5th best kicker, and then you tried to give him a couple points on your defense, but even that didn't work. Jake, you're still in the top 6, so you're on the inside looking out. Jazz, obviously just outside the playoffs. When we get to the standings, you'll see how close this is, but huge game for both. Speaking of a huge game, Horst actually sent me a note. Now, first off, this is coming out on Horst's birthday, so if you're listening to this and you haven't said that happy birthday note, go ahead and do so. He kind of needed the win, and honestly, he kind of deserved this one. He's been screwed over most weeks. He even sent one suggesting that, and then I kind of thought for a second, I'm like, but he ends up winning, so hey, I don't feel so bad, buddy. Happy, early birthday. Maybe you get another one this weekend. You had the tight end 2 performance. You also had DJ Moore just pull the best vanishing act we'd seen in a while. You had the best kicker and then a mediocre defense. So you kind of went 50-50. Nico Collins, you would think, was top 5. He was just outside. A lot of receivers just sniffing around the edge there. On the flip side, Underhill, you did all right, but not great. And really looking at our bottom tier, you had Denver, which was the 3rd best defense, but the guy with Anus in his name just isn't going to get you the points you need, especially when they can barely score any points. Harvey could be big this week, but he just wasn't last week. And if we look at your bench, not quite commando, but pretty much commando. So it's not like you really had it in. You really could have muscled this one out. You're still top 6, and we're about to see in a little bit how close things are. Horst, I don't know mathematically. I think if you got 4 wins, you could still be in the hunt. So really, there's no margin for error. So keep the party going, buddy. Just like the Monday Nighter, this one just makes me sad. Yeah, I don't know what to say here, guys. Obviously, no one here was in the top 5. Barely anyone even sniffed their predicteds. We got single digits here. Guys, I don't even know. Well, here we go. Jets. All right. They were not top 5, but they were close. You had some points on the bench. I don't know how to talk about this one. It just makes me sad. B, this would have been a huge one for you, and you had the chances to get in there. You do need some wins here coming up. V, a win's a win, buddy. Top 2, that's a bye. But maybe just don't think about this one anymore. We do have our top 2, but points are not necessarily your friend here, V, especially after last week's. But if you keep winning, you are in control. We'll see how that pans out. 500 gets you in, so Chaz is just off, and we've got a couple guys close. If 500 is going to be the margin, not everyone's going to get there, so I think the people at the bottom are going to want to make it messy if they can. And let's see if they can. Week 11 matchups are going to be huge here. I'm pointing to a 2-3 matchup here. That's probably going to be pretty epic, especially, like I said, V, you're going to need the wins right now or big scores because you're a little behind in points. 6-7, obviously. Oh, man, I hate that. I don't know if anyone here teaches kids, but if no bueno. Either way, can't say it any other way. Matchups are going to matter. Check your lineups. We know the stakes, 4 weeks left. This is old news for us, but it's getting exciting. As per usual, the buys are not guaranteed. Playoff spots aren't guaranteed. I'm excited just thinking about it. Spain calls the Hawaii weird combo. I don't know if people are aware of this. I think it's the first time 2 Hawaiian quarterbacks are playing each other, and I think they went to the same high school, but they're playing in Spain, so Hawaii's going to have to pull an all-nighter to watch it. If you want any more evidence that the NFL legitimately doesn't care about you as a person, I think we get it on a weekly basis. Anyway, I was going to say bienvenido. I don't know Spanish enough to say it, and I don't want to say something stupid. Good luck, everybody, because it's getting crazy.